As the release of the new Space Marines Codex and first two supplements draw ever closer, I can feel the fires of Brotherhood burning brighter. Perhaps it is because I'm finally seeing rules that feel adequate for the Space Marine Legions. Or maybe it's because I really dig those trailers. Regardless of the reason, the time has come. Let's paint an Ultramarine. Okay, so here we are. This is our Ultramarine. He's got his accessories like his Primaris diploma, shoulder pad, and custom helmet. Right now, he's just been base coated with the Macragge Blue base paint from Citadel. And the first step I'm going to do with him is to just give him an overall wash. And this will be with Agrax Earthshade, diluted with Lamine Medium. In retrospect, the amount of Lamine Medium used might have been too much. I mean, I'm recording this voiceover with the benefit of knowing the end result. And I think since I'm layering up with the idea of building up contrast, I could have benefited, I believe, like in the future I'm going to try this out, but I believe that it'd probably be a superior end result if the initial wash was brighter. Well, next up I'm just filling in the black joints, kind of like the rubber areas that allow the suit to be flexible. And after this basically I recorded the rest of that off camera. To build up the layering, I used mainly two colors, like the standard tone, like our neutral, kind of like our control, and the saturated brighter tone. And for that I'm using Instar's Ocean Blue. And you can see, like on my palette, I just have, two splotches, and I kind of just mix them together in kind of a very loose gradient. And basically, I'm just gonna layer up the colors. It's a slower process, but this is the way I enjoy painting, kind of working with the tones and building up the look I'm going for. And I wanted this Ultramarine not to be very muted like you often see, on the Games Workshop's web store. I kind of like how the Ultramarines are depicted in some of the artwork, where it's a bit more saturated, a bit more ocean blue. And so I used Instar's Ocean Blue. And I actually really like the Instar brand. They do make for great paints for layering, I find, just because they're kind of translucent as they dry, because they look like, when I place them down, they look very stark, like the contrast from the Macragge Blue, but once it dries, it's a bit more of the base tone shows through from underneath. So I find I really like the result of layering with them. And as a bonus, they actually color match to Citadel's range. I don't think they have every color, but they have the vast majority, I believe. At least when I did my order from them, that's how it was. As I'm doing this layering, I often try to think of the direction of light, like as we can see with that circular cap on the backpack here. But sometimes I cheat and I don't follow that. I just try and go for an interesting gradient. So it just kind of comes down to feel and the approach I'm going with at the moment. Yeah, I gotta get those fingers and, just grabbing the color from the range of the gradient that I need and applying it over. I also did the eyes off camera. I recorded this over a series of days, mostly because the first day I started, the weather it's kind of threatening of a rainstorm, so it affected the lighting pretty severely, so I kind of had to just stop painting, and after I came back to it, I accidentally started painting the eyes, but I didn't record that part, and I thought I did, but first time doing a painting tutorial, well, not tutorial, but kind of like a Let's Paint style video. So, mistakes are going to happen. Anyways, yep, we're just filling in the rest of the accessories and the gun and the Primaris diploma in black. I'm using Abaddon black. Usually, the vast majority of my paints are Citadel. And then I'm adding more ocean blue for contrast, wherever I feel it's needed. Kind of to taste, really. I'm just trying to make sure every armor panel has some tonal variation, I guess is the simplest way I could summarize my objective with this style of layering and building up contrast. So, like, for me, I find this result to be more interesting than the flat wash shade, the base shade and then layer of the Citadel standard, I guess you could say. Next, I'm just filling in the metallics with some lead belcher. That lead belcher pot's actually really low, and I probably have to pick up a new one fairly soon. I might try some of the new Iron Warriors paint, actually. Yeah, this step's pretty simple, just blocking in colors. Trying to be careful not to hit too many other areas, but, I do, and I just touch those up later. As Duncan, beloved by all, says, we can always neaten it up later. Hit the accessories. I'm not actually sure what that is. I call it a Primaris diploma, but if anyone knows what that is, let me know. And then I'm hitting the shoulder pads with the lead belcher as well. This is because the gold I use, I find it has a better end result if I base the area with the silver first. So I'm just hitting up the shoulder pads, getting them ready for the gold. So now he looks like a first company Ultramarine, but I definitely do want him to be second company. The gold and blue is too iconic. Okay, and before the gold, jump the gun a bit. Yeah, we're just gonna hit some of those lights on his wrist. The lights, are they buttons? I'm assuming they're some sort of indicator. And we'll just hit the other red areas of his accessories, the purity seal, and I layer in with the Mephiston red a bit of pink horror just to brighten it up, and then again I use pallid witch flesh, which is one of my favorite ways to, instead of using ceramite white, which is a paint I hate, I always prefer pallid witch flesh. It is nearly as bright. Gets the job done. So there's my weird gold paint. Funny story, I actually bought the wrong paint, and now this gold isn't actually water soluble, so it requires a special brush and you have to clean it, but I bought it, so I'm going to use it, and I happen to like the result as far as a metallic paint looks, because I tried the Retributor armor, and this, actually, I quite like the result. A very smooth finish for the metallics, for the golds. And with that, on his Aquila as well, he's starting to look like an Ultramarine for real now, which is really fun to see. Right, so here I'm actually I want to hit the Aquila with some wash just because I feel like it's a bit too flat. So I mix some Agrath's Earthshade with a little bit of Lamine Medium and a little bit of Lamentor's Yellow Glaze. And to begin filling in the white details, I use Instar's, oh shoot, what's this pig called? It was on screen, but it's their color match to Celestra Gray, which is my other favorite off-white. It's a bit cooler than Pallid Witch Flesh, so I prefer it for areas I want a cool white. Now, I'm gonna begin this freehand, and freehanding is something I'm trying to get better at, so there's gonna be a bit of back and forth and cleanups as I go along and figure out how to do these decals. So bear with me here, trying to get better at them, and well, that's what painting's all about, right? It's the craft. So you guys get to watch me make mistakes and clean them up. Okay, yeah, I didn't like the result before, so I just used some Reichland Flesh Shade straight out of the pot. I believe this is what GW suggests for layering with gold, to give it that warmer tone. And I actually think the effect looks pretty good over the Vallejo Gold. And yep, just cleaning up those arrows. Right, so for this raised Ultramarine symbol on our shoulder pad, I'm trying to go for that gilded, marbled style emblem. Excuse me. So I hit it with some Colia green shade mixed with lamb and medium, and I'm going to come back with Celestial white after to create some tonal variation and to mimic what would be like some sort of patterning on that stonework. Yeah, and I'm just adding some paint to those magazines and the, that square butt end of it. And finishing off the accessories with some Steel Legion drab on our purity seal. Just to get... I actually always do my purity seals with Steel Legion drab. I feel like it's a pretty sweet base. And here we're just filling in that gap, darkening it so that it reads better, as if it could actually take the magazine he's holding. And I just grabbed some leftover Volupus Pink for the purity seal, just trying something out here. It's in one of the newer paints I got from GW. But I kind of like the result for purity seals over the red. It gives it that waxy kind of cooler hue. Yeah, and I think here we're just getting in those metal details with Null Oil and cleaning up our mishaps with the lead belcher from before. Alright, so for the purity seal here, I hit it with Agrax Earthshade. And instead of letting it dry, I actually find this technique is pretty good for making things weathered. I take some Army Painter Skeleton Bone, and I mix it with the Steel Legion drab, and I actually work that mixed paint into the drying Agrax Earthshade. And I find it creates a pretty sweet, weathered look for the paper. Kind of like that real muddy, just weathered look, and I think it looks really fitting for the parchment paper of the purity seal, that is. Yep, and here is what I was mentioning earlier with that gilded Ultramarines logo, just outlining it and filling in some shapes, really, and kind of let the human eye make of it what it will. And I just get some Steel Legion drab in black and draw some squiggly lines. And here, again, just a little bit of freehanding experiment, trying to get that company 2, the Roman numerals of 2. So you can see here, I flubbed it up real bad. So I just get more of the Celestra Gray and clean it up. And now it's starting to look decent. Right, so these are the colors I'll be using for edge highlighting the different materials, right? For the blacks, Mechanica Standard, Stormhost Silver for the metallics, and Rust Gray for the blue armor panels. So as you guys know, edge highlighting is a pretty lengthy process, so I'll probably do the bulk of this off camera and show you guys the end result. And here he is. Let me focus. Okay, there we go. Yep, I really dig the result. Looking pretty sweet. I took him off his default base and stuck him on a Sector Mechanicus. And I'll try and do one of those Warhammer TV spin jobby things. This son of Gilliman is ready to fight against the darkness for the glory of mankind. Thanks for watching. I had a ton of fun painting this guy, and I found painting while recording to be an effective way to push my abilities. I guess I just paint better with a little bit of pressure. But I would like to hear from you guys. If you enjoyed this video or want to see more or less of this style of content, leave a comment below. If you have any tips or suggestions, I would be glad to hear them. And if you have any questions, ask away. And lastly, if you want to help this channel grow, consider subscribing for weekly videos. Thanks again for watching, and I will hope to see you guys in the next one.